women are paying a lot more attention to technology and even how it's being used in relation to them.
How innovative can you still be, to deliver exciting solutions and still something that impacts Africa?
We see a lot of opportunity for growth. So I think AI should be our bold move.
Hello and welcome to State of Africa. I'm Jeff Mote. Today we are talking about Digital Africa, building the world's next innovation hub. And to set the stage, consider this. Lagos alone hosts 503 active fintech startups. That's more than double the number in any other African city. It's no wonder Lagos is being called Africa's fintech capital. But as promising as the momentum is, the continent still must grapple with infrastructure gaps, fragmented regulation, and questions of digital sovereignty if Africa is to leapfrog truly and equitably. With us to examine the bold solutions are Sneha Shah, CEO, IX Africa, Brian Namanya, founder of Tubayo, and Fiona Asonga, a member of Afrinic, the African Network Information Center. Brian, welcome to the show. Tell us a brief introduction about yourself and your company.
My name is Brian Namanya from Kampala, Uganda, and I'm the founder and CEO at Tubayo. Tubayo is Africa's digital marketplace for the world, and our vision is opening up the world market to the exciting many African businesses.
We have Sneha Shah of IX Africa. A warm welcome to you.
I've been in Africa. In fact, our family is fourth generation here, and I'm really glad that in the last 15 years I've worked in the whole sort of tech value chain and trying to make an impact, starting from telecoms to building telecom towers to doing talent with the largest edtech here. And now we're running the largest data center in Eastern Central Africa.
Let's go to Fiona Asonga. She wears many hats. For this particular discussion, she's a board member of Afrinic. And I want us to unpack that also, because very many people probably have heard the word, and they hear there's an internet registry somewhere. Could you unpack what Afrinic is and what it's doing for the continent at large?
As a member of Afrinic, Afrinic is the African Internet Registry that manages the critical infrastructure, the numbering resources for the African continent. And yes, I've been making a lot of noise about Afrinic in the last couple of years. But because we have been facing some challenges within our governance structure, we are just getting out of that. However, the critical internet resources that Afrinic manages for us are very critical for the digital activities on this continent, and that is what I would like us to focus on.
We have a young entrepreneur in the room, and Brian, that's why I want to come to you when you talk about your platform, your business, and how you got into it. Can you tell us the gap that you saw and how it has been for you in terms of growing your business, not only in Kampala, but across Africa as well?
So my journey starts by being inspired by the internet businesses. And so I decided to create Tubayo. And I wanted something that was going to be easy and going to be impactful to as many people. We started off with travel and simply answering how do we make it easy to travel, making it easy to book, making experiences cheaper, and opening up for a wider market for the travel businesses.
And then you look at the continent, we are the fastest growing digital economy, if you look at it right now. But in terms of global competitiveness, we're not quite there yet as of now. What aren't we getting? What's the gap you're seeing, Fiona, in terms of the growth is exponential, but competitively in terms of Africa and the world, not quite there? What's the gap?
A lot of our population, while we are fastest growing in terms of adapting, we are good adapters, but we are not adapting, we are not able to build and facilitate access, for example, of infrastructure as fast as the market or the customers are adapting to technology. So we still have some areas where even just a simple GSM connection is a challenge. Friends look for a hill or a tree or somewhere where they can, when you go to those areas where you can now make a phone call, just a simple phone call. Forget the data, because data now is a different level. So issues of access are a challenge that needs to be addressed. And when we sort out the access problem, the infrastructure issues, then we shall definitely be able to see that leapfrog, because we are on a leapfrog, but we're not really leaping the way we need to, because we have a bit of weight. And that weight is in affordability to access devices, affordability to access connectivity, and infrastructure, being able to reach rural areas, underserved regions. And then once we've done that, part of that ecosystem is the data, having that data stored locally.
Lagos is one of those places some have called, like the fintech capital of, the continent. What are they getting right when it comes to even the ecosystem? Because there are very many factors that need to be in play to actually grow.
Yeah.
And I'm sure in terms of hubs, we've probably looked in that direction, Sneha. What's the Lagos ecosystem getting right that the other countries should look at?
Yeah. First of all, I've been to Lagos once in my life, which was 2 years ago, and I was told you either love it or hate it.
No in between.
No in between. And I've spent a lot of time in India, in Mumbai, which is one of the most populated cities. A lot of energy there, and I call Lagos the Mumbai of Africa. And talking about the ecosystem. So I went there when I was with Moringa, and we're looking at developing talent there, and went to a place called Yaba. I ate the jollof rice there.
Right.
But Yaba is actually the fintech capital, and you find real hustlers, real talent, real energy. But Jeff, coming back to your previous point about Africa being globally competitive, of course, Fiona highlighted some of the challenges. But what I would say that we shouldn't understate ourselves. If we look at what we've achieved so far and what's in the future, I think we've been able to leapfrog a lot of the things that the Western world had. I mean, take landlines, right? So many Kenyans never had landlines, and now they all have the latest smartphones, which are being affordable by fintech. By able to borrow and pay for your phone over time, and any rural consumer can have one of the affordable, say the Samsung phones. And then when you look at M-Pesa, of course, we're the most successful fintech in the world here. And looking at access, for example, of course, we've got growing submarine fiber connectivity. But now with innovations with the low orbit satellites, so like SpaceX, Starlink coming in, that's helping solve some of the access problems. And then looking at talent, and this is something we're really proud of here, because in a market like Kenya, where you have a very good education system, very smart and capable talent. And for example, with the EdTech Hub involved here, we've been partnering with the largest bootcamp provider in the US. They're called Flatiron School. And the graduates that were coming out of this market have the same capability, the same qualifications as a software engineer coming out of Flatiron School in New York or Chicago or Silicon Valley. And then in terms of earnings, so in the last 20 years, Southeast Asia, so India has become a destination for BPO. But what we've also seen, especially in the last 10 years, that the salary inflation is very high there. So actually, a market like Kenya or Africa, we can provide capable, qualified talent, but where corporates can afford that talent. So I think we have a lot going for ourselves.
Right. And even when you talk about that, there's something interesting you spoke about in terms of looking at when it comes to the hubs, how we'll have them, across the continent. And therein also lies a very interesting question, because we've seen a lot of activity, like you said, in Lagos, quite a bit of activity in Nairobi, some in South Africa, Cape Town on that particular side. And there also lies a risk of over-concentration of, certain areas, and another part of the continent not having as much activity. I'd like your thoughts before I get to Brian on this, Fiona, on how we look at this particular issue of having these hubs and not over-concentrating, that you're either in Nigeria or Nairobi or South Africa or nowhere at all.
Governments need to be intentional to facilitate support of hubs. Sneha has talked about hubs for capacity building. There's the hubs he has in mind for their data exchange, for their data center. Then there is the hubs for capacity building, like Moringa, that he's very much involved in. To have that capacity building done so that we can have those skills developed means that there has to be an intentional effort by governments. It means that the governments across the divide have to have a clear digital economy strategy with clear deliverables. They have to have very clear policies, a policy framework developed around that strategy so that our old laws are amended and can align.
What has been the challenge for you as CEO and founder of Tubayo to scale across Africa?
I think if the markets are aligned and there's an agreed interest in regarding to the future of digital opportunity in Africa, so much would be solved. Policy would be a lot easier to pass. Capital would be a lot easier to deploy as it's more exciting, because if you're targeting the upper middle income and above, then there's even a bigger pool for that. If fintech is allowed and there's easier payment transfers cross-border, that would still create a more exciting opportunity. But I'm a strong believer in ideas and bold individuals. I think as businessmen, ours is always the task of how innovative can you still be.
As a continent, there's a lot of talk on how we can actually be self-reliant, Africa to fund Africa's development. And you've spoken about how some of this development is coming, but large of it, from the West, big tech investing on the continent. How can Africa get its own sustainable capital to grow itself? Is it happening? And if not, how can it actually look at doing that?
Yeah, I mean, of course, when there are big, large infrastructure projects, then companies rely on some of the DFIs. There's the IFC, World Bank, who are giving subsidized financing, and I think that's of course important. But then on the other end of the spectrum, when you look at venture capital or developing application, investing into innovation, I'm quite positive that there is traction there. So in Nairobi, which is of course a hub, it's quite active. There's an organization called NIBAN, Nairobi Angels Network, and we're investing in various startups here. Not only investing by bringing capital, but we're professionals, so we bring experience as well to mentor these entrepreneurs as well. So those are sort of real evidence of local capital starting to circulate.
We want to take a short break now on State of Africa. When you come back after the break, we want to look at, we've spoken about regulation for a bit, we've spoken about the digital sovereignty a bit. How do we bring this together as we move forward? We're looking at solutions on how we can actually be that innovation hub, that and more. After the break, don't go too far. Welcome back to State of Africa. If you're just joining us, we're discussing Africa's digital future and how the continent can position itself as the world's next innovation hub. With me are Sneha Shah, Brian Namanya, and Fiona Asonga, sharing their insights and what it will take to design a digital model that can drive growth on the continent. When you talk about data being stored elsewhere, being domiciled somewhere outside of the continent, what does that mean? What does that impact have for Africans when we don't have our own data on the continent?
When you look at the geopolitical environment, sovereignty becomes very key, because when you have the East and West, for example, fighting for dominance, and with all the wars that are unfortunately ongoing, then as well as protecting your land, protecting your data. Today we don't have the infrastructure. That's why when we have some of the government platforms or enterprises who are on the cloud, your data is sitting out there, and tomorrow somebody can wake up out there and say that we don't give you access to this data, or they increase charges 10x for the VMware, the virtual machines, or the security, etc. So it's really important for what is called the primary data or the sensitive data to be protected. First of all, knowing where it is. So today when it's on the cloud, you don't even know, because there are all these different internet servers, So you don't know where that data is stored, where that data is going. So when it is stored in your country, you know that it's within the limits of your country's boundaries. And then there is a technical element as well, because as applications are getting more sophisticated, they are using AI, then latency becomes a big issue. So for example, today, if my sensitive applications are in Dublin or in Frankfurt, then the time for the connection, which is called the latency, that's too long. So when you have the data stored locally, then that latency is also minimized.
And I want us to speak to the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, because really, in essence, it's supposed to remedy what you're talking about. How coordinated are the efforts in making sure that your service, your platform is accessible as easily in Kampala as it is in Nairobi, as it is in the Gambia, when you look at the AFCFTA? There's a lot of talk about it, especially this year. How is it working for you as a business operator?
Honestly, as a business, all I would want to see is results. How do we see a mutual aligned policies regarding investments, regarding money transfer, cross-border payments? I would definitely want to see the benefit, the fruits of of that, and I think it's a step in the right direction. But I think we just need the results. We need it to happen. All of this will be solved for sure. Because that will give us, bolder missions to take on. I think all the challenges we are facing can be fixed by entrepreneurs, if the environment is right. So it's a matter of just making sure implementation is happening. And I don't think there is shortage in entrepreneurs that can invest in these bold ventures, in the capital. So all I can say about the continental free trade is really, we need to see that happening, even just when it comes home to East Africa, the East African community. We need to see that the market is actually free, if someone is to invest like in the data centers, only just transferring the Forex alone. So it's really things that come down to one, we need to align our interests as African governments. And then two, leave the work to the entrepreneurs. And I think even when you study those governments we are really benchmarking on, they've been built by the entrepreneurs. They're building bold infrastructure projects like roads, like subways. These are costing billions of dollars per kilometer, and they're building hundreds of kilometers. So, and capital is to be used to generate return. So if you create the right environment and policies, I think the opportunity in Africa is so clear, it's so big. A lot of that will be attracted here. And many youth will have something exciting to do.
I want us to come to the tail end of this particular conversation. And even as you look at this, Fiona, very quickly before I get to Brian, because as we talk about this, how can we ensure women, rural entrepreneurs, are also part of this digital revolution? We've spoken about what the government can do in terms of making sure there's infrastructure in place for them to be in this particular space as well. What else can you do? Because you've spoken very passionately about private sector and the role they play in making sure the wheel moves. What can private sector be looking at?
The women are also entrepreneurs and they are also investors. And I think women have done a lot more to push the access to the digital platforms, because when you look at, we call them in Kenya chamas, but in other countries, I don't know the name for the women's groups that come together and have small kitties, and they meet on a weekly basis. They tend to meet on a weekly basis or monthly basis and making small contributions to help each other, to support each other. So the women's chamas have been very effective in growing. When you look at the circle business and circle growth, circles came out of that table banking that the women did. Today we are seeing women still continuing with that and helping each other buy devices, set up, invest in their businesses and grow and facilitate access. In Kenya, we have had the benefit of working with the African Women in ICT Forum that has run projects with women farmers in Nanyuki, and then run capacity build, and all these are capacity building programs. Run a program for girls in Nairobi and in Lodwar to help them access digital skills. So just helping them build their skills and competencies around their skills to be able to benefit from the services. And the response has been amazing. A total of up to 5,000 women so far have been trained and have received certificates. Women are paying a lot more attention to technology and even how it's being used in relation to them. Mm-hmm. Then they're coming in and they're also investing. I know companies that have been started. Today we've got ISPs, connectivity providers, who have started companies as women and are running them as women.
Brad, I want to come to you as we're coming to a close of this as well, because when you look at a business and its growth, there's a lot that's needed in it. And it was interesting when we started this conversation, you said that, I mean, in the tech space where we are, money really isn't the biggest challenge we have in terms of growth for a company. So as we bring this to a close, what do you feel is the one thing that's needed to really allow startups and even business that are, having a bit of skin in the game and, growth in the game to actually thrive on the continent, from your experience running to Bio?
I'll say two things. One is faith. Just hold on to your faith with everything, your mind, soul, and heart. And then so that you don't shake a bit. That's the confidence you get in execution and implementing. Because so many things are going to shake you I think on your journey to a worthwhile, goal. And then two is vision. I think we need to double down on vision, on what's really compelling. So personally, for me, those two are like a core. I always pray about, everything I do. And then I hold this vision to open up the world market to Africans. And we've done some really incredible work. We create up to like 2,000 job opportunities, with our approach with the markets. We have one of the most exciting markets where small businesses gather, about 200 businesses gathering every single month, and they are transacting, and we've built the online platform for them as well. We've become the launchpad, on the at least in the country, and that has come with a recognition, with the several awards, winning Startup of the Year, Company of the Year, and also the partnerships. We partner now with like the boldest companies, right from MTN, Stanbic, and all. And now the mission is really across Africa.
And final word coming from Sneha. I mean, if we were to look at one bold move, whether it's policy, whether it's innovation, that will define whether Africa does indeed become the world's next digital innovation hub, what would that bold move be for the continent?
And again, as Africa, we have a real opportunity not to be left behind, but really, take the front seat, like we did with, for example, with M-Pesa, like we did with, our solar power, and how we have a lot of smartphone penetration here, but it's ironic that those rural consumers don't have the electricity to charge. But that's not stopped them. We've been innovative to, for example, have these pay-go, solar systems with television, etc. So I think AI should be our bold move. We have the talent to use the AI. We have the energy. We have the infrastructure. We just now need the GPUs here. Right. So whoever is listening out there, bring the GPUs to Africa.
That brings us to the end of today's panel on Digital Africa, building the world's next innovation hub. We've heard how Africa's youthful population, entrepreneurial energy, and bold digital solutions can transform the continent into a leader in the global economy, provided the right frameworks and investments are in place. I'd like to say a big thank you to my guests, Sneha Shah, Bran Namanya, and Fiona Asonga for their valuable perspective on this particular show. And thank you for watching. I'm Jeff Mote. Until next time, this has been State of Africa.